Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first class that I'm doing on organics. My name is Gina Alfieri, and I have a nursing background and now a full-time student in a holistic nutrition, certified holistic nutrition certification that I'm doing, and I'm learning so many cool things and thought it would be great and I could help add some value to you. And a lot of people ask questions about organics. Is it worth it? Why is it so expensive? How does this impact my life? Maybe some small changes that we can be making to help impact our health and help impact our environment in a positive way. So my endeavor is just to help share that information tonight. We'll leave some time at the very end for some questions. And I'm going to share my screen and go through. I'm a visual learner and an auditory learner, so I like to listen and follow along as I'm learning, and hopefully some visual will help you too. So just if you guys can just give me maybe a thumbs up. Janissa, can you see? All right, perfect. Thanks, guys. Amazing. So organics, is it worth it? I think first let's start at what organic is. And so you can see here the certifications, the different labeling that you would find on a package if it is certified organic. So organic has a precise meaning under the USDA, which is the US governing body, and Canada's organic certified. 100% organic means that all the ingredients, every single one in a product, has been grown or raised according to the USDA and US or Canada's organic standards, which are the rules for producing foods that are labeled organic. And so just so that you understand, I'm also going to share where I'm getting this information as well, so you can go and check it out yourself. But in Canada, you can go to www.inspection.gc.ca/organic. And you'll see all the regulating information that's there. They update it regularly to really understand all that goes in to defining what organic is. So when people say, is it really organic? Yes, it has to be actually third-party tested. There are multiple hoops that farmers have to jump through in order to really create an organic product, and I'm going to talk about that specifically. Organic farming, this is in Canada, but really this could say North America. But here's what it prohibits. So when you're getting an organic product, it will prohibit, there will be no synthetic pesticides, herbicides, or fungicides. Maybe some of you don't even know what that is, because there's some things in here that I didn't even understand until I started in school again. Synthetic fertilizers are banned. Anything that is genetically modified or GMO, that is, people are really becoming more and more aware of what a GMO is, that is not allowed in an organic product. No ionizing radiation, sewage sludge, and I'm going to stop on this for a second. So in many municipalities and counties across the US and Canada, sewage sludge, that means human sewage, is allowed to go on farmland. That farmland is allowed to be fertilized with human sewage that is not has not gone through any kind of processes. And so just think about that. If it's not organic, it's allowed to do that. It won't go directly onto your food source, but it will go onto the feed that is then being used to fatten the food sources that you're eating. So you're still going to get that. So think about all the things that are in people's bodies that we don't metabolize out. So things like antibiotics and other drugs that are in our system, viruses and things that come through the body that end up getting excreted in the waste will go right onto farming field. There's no growth hormones and antibiotics for animals that produce meat or poultry, eggs, and dairy. And then, of course, you can't have any cloned farm animals or their descendants, and that's part of organic farming. So what does this mean for your health? Like, why is it important to know what is prohibited and what is not allowed in organic farming? Because I'm actually sharing some information from a really good book, and I'll show you the book. It's called The End of Food. and it gives some great information in it. And so over 70% of antibiotics that are used today are given to farm animals and seafood. So that's pretty significant. 70% of the antibiotics that are created are given to farm animals in the seafood that we eat. So there's supposed to be a washout period, but this is very rarely enforced by our government. So that means that they can be having antibiotics be raised on antibiotics up to about 3 weeks before they're slaughtered. So that time frame, that 3 weeks is nothing. It means that they're not being able to metabolize out the antibiotics. So we are ingesting those. Antibiotics are not only used to prevent infection, but they're also, low doses are given continuously to fatten the animals up. So in the US in particular, this is not so in Canada, but in the US, milk can have up to 100 micrograms of tetracycline per kilo, so per 2.2 pounds. So this is an antibiotic that's used to treat things like acne, the plague, malaria, syphilis, and it is not metabolized at all in the body. So this is really important. This is how it's impacting our health, because we know scientists are estimating that over 400,000 Canadians and even more Americans are going to die in the next 20 years due to superbugs. Superbugs are those bugs that they're antibiotic resistant. And why are we creating such a resistance? Because we are having antibiotics in our food. So if you're consuming organic, you are not building up the resistance to those antibiotics. So organic farming in Canada, how it impacts you, how it impacts your community, I would be remiss to not mention some of these things, because we are all about supporting local, especially right now in the pandemic. People are losing jobs. We want to be able to really support our community. So the number one way is that it creates biodiversity. What does that mean? It means that it can actually sustain itself. The farm will actually, as things are picked, the farmers will leave the roots there, which will help fertilize the soil, and the soil health will be much better. What we're finding is that people are eating more food, but they're not getting more nutrients. And that's largely because of the soil health. The water quality is massive as well, because we really are about making sure that the quality of the water that goes into the soil, that is actually watering our food, is pure, so that you're not getting any waste or sewage, and the runoff is clear. They do humanly take care of our livestock practices, so you know that they're being humanely raised. They're not using any of the antibiotics. They're not using any hormones, and we provide attentive care that really promotes the health and meets the behavioral needs of the livestock. And I'll go into depth about that in the next couple of slides. But the other thing to think about too is that as they prepare the organic products, they emphasize careful processing. Their handling methods are very careful, and they really do maintain the organic integrity and the vital qualities of all the products in production of all stages. And they're using renewable resources too. So when people are using synthetic fertilizers, that is largely used with petroleum base. So it is massive, and we don't want the petroleum in us, right? So this is a huge part of why organic farming and organic foods, it's important to know what's in them and what's not in them. So labeling, can you trust it? So just talking about this very quickly, I'm going to talk about labeling and some of the greenwashing that happens. And greenwashing is just a term that's used that is, maybe they start to make these terms seem like we are making better decisions but for our health, but we're actually not. And so this is important to know what the labels actually mean. So in the States, they can put 100% organic because the USDA really does make sure that everything from the very feed all the way to the finished product is 100% organic. In Canada, 100% organic claim is not permitted because all products with an organic content of 95% or greater are considered certified organic, and they're going to be labeled as such, like made with organic ingredients, is not allowed, because what they want is that true certification is 95% or greater in Canada. In Canada, though, they do allow you to put on the labels products with 70 to 95% organic content. It can be declared on the outside of the package. So it's very clear, like 70% organic or 80% organic. And then on the back of the label, they'll actually list before each ingredient which ones are organic, just so that they can be very clear. The government regulates this, they check it. It's very expensive for farmers and producers of organic products. It's very expensive to be labeled organic. It's about $15,000 a year, because they have to get special certifications, third-party testing. They come out and they test the pH of the soil, and there's all kinds of practices that happen when they have to be considered certified organic. So a couple of other labeling things, and maybe some of you saw yesterday my little chat about eggs. So just so that you understand, this is from The End of Food, again, a book that I've read that's been really pivotal and giving me some great information that I'm passing on to you here. So cage-free, probably many of you have seen that, a couple of, maybe a picture or a documentary that has chickens literally side by side in these battery cages. And they're often pooping where they're eating. It's not at all sanitary. They are being fed all kinds of hormones so that they're so big that they can barely walk on their legs. And so this cage-free is a step up from that, where hens are not confined to the battery cages, but there's no access to the outdoors, and we don't know what the feed is. And then free reign or free run is right above that. And so hens can move around in maybe barns or pens. They could still be overcrowded, but sometimes they have access to outdoors. Oftentimes they don't, but they're still free to roam around. Free range is the next step above that, and that's where hens actually are outdoors. They are being fed regular food and regular grain, the stuff that they would normally seek out to eat. And then organic, of course, once you have that certification there, it's the best. It's animal welfare standards, organic feed, and so you know that they're actually being fed with organic as well. But a good option here, if you've got local farms and you know that these farms, their practices are allowing free range. We've got a farm that we go to right around the corner. They're not a certified organic farm. They're not going to spend the $15,000 a year to actually have that certification, but they are a sustainable farm, and they let their hens go free. And so now for $5 a dozen, I'm able to get some great options here. Okay, next slide. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about beef here. So grass-fed, grass-finished, and pasture-raised are actually not regulated terms. So when you see that, that's something that the company has put on. So antibiotic-free means only that the animal didn't receive antibiotics for a short period of time right before slaughter. So this is what is deceiving in North America, is that it can actually be labeled antibiotic-free, which in Canada, that's actually a standard. In the US, it's not. So you have to be even more diligent as a consumer to make sure that the beef that you're ingesting is actually ethically raised and humanely raised. Those things can be meaningless. So this is the hard part of really needing to do research if it matters to you. Organic is best, ideally 100% grass-fed, but oftentimes you have to really know the farms of where it's coming from. So, you know, when you're talking about creating an opportunity to support local doesn't mean your grocery store. Unfortunately, that food is being brought in and imported from everywhere. Oftentimes, you know, you're seeing packaging coming from way farther away. If you can support local farmers. We've got farmers all around us where you can actually go in with a few different people and purchase a cow if you're eating that much, and it probably lasts you a couple of years. The outlay is expensive, but you at least know what you're getting and where you're getting it from. And I'll talk about some options here too. I would definitely recommend, if you're looking for places to start getting organic, you want to think about animal sources to really start. And here's why. It's important for your health, especially cows, your beef. Cows live for a long period of time, way longer than chickens. And so it's important because if they're being fed all of these hormones and antibiotics, they're not being able to be metabolized out of their system. And when we eat it, that's being passed on to us in a much larger quantity than, let's say, a chicken would be. So if you do eat beef, and if it's something that you're looking at, you would want to look at ensuring that you get grass-fed at the very minimum, but also making sure that you get organic, because it really ensures that the feed is there. They're not being injected with hormones. That's illegal in Canada a few weeks before, but they could be raised earlier. With organic, we know that that's not the case. And so it really is important to make sure that you're going to, even if you go to an organic butcher, they are actually way more prevalent than you think. Just hop on to Google and Google your local butchers, and oftentimes they'll have organic sources there. Again, hormone-free, grass-fed. And then if you are eating fish, support sustainable fishmongers. You can choose wild Pacific salmon or smaller fish, because chances are most things are being farmed these days, and even organic. This is the hard part, is they're being fed things like corn. Well, fish don't eat corn, so we really want to make sure that they're being fed what they would normally eat in the wild for your health. And here's another thing too, as we talk about food in your health, we're talking about quality over quantity. So just take a look at some of wild meat. And I don't know how you feel if you're plant-based or if you are somebody who does eat meat, but if you took a look at some of the more wild meats here and how they stack up against our more domestic meats. So look at the lamb. That light blue color indicates the amount of protein that is in the meat. The red indicates, or pink indicates, the amount of fat in the meat. And then the saturated fat is indicated by that dark blue. So you can see that lamb, you're getting mostly fat in there with a little bit less protein, quite a bit of saturated fat. You can see where pork lines up there, and even beef. Beef has a large amount of protein, but it also has some fat in there as well. But if you start looking at the wild meat, deer, bison, rabbit, caribou, they are very lean meats. And what we're finding is they're high in protein, low in fat, low in saturated fat. And so you're going to need much less to actually satisfy your body. So when we talk about quality, when you're spending money on organic meats and you're thinking about a way to kind of save money, when you're eating these more wild meats, you're going to need less of it. Your body is going to feel full and feel satisfied much quicker, because those wild meats will yield more protein. You're going to be satisfied with a smaller amount. But also when we're talking about organics, about the produce, we're talking about soil health. So soil health is important because it means that more nutrients are actually in your food. You're going to find that even your produce will fill you and keep you more satisfied because it's more flavorful. So you're actually going to signal that satiety in the brain. Your brain is going to signal that you're satisfied and you need to stop eating. You're going to get more nutrients, and many of us have nutrient, vitamin, and mineral deficiencies. Even though we're eating great foods, the quality of the nutrients in our food isn't there unless we are really looking at organics. So why is organic more expensive? Because of the certifications and how much farmers have to do. You can take a look at some of the pictures and just see what's there. So in Organics. A farmer has to have their field or their orchard or their vineyard, they have to be certified that there's been no use of unacceptable materials for 36 months before their first harvest. So that literally means that for 3 years, before a farmer could even bring their harvest to sale, they have to grow the grain and grow the food and pass certifications, government regulated soil testing, and ensure that there's been no products there for 3 years, no prohibited substances. So that means 3 years of work with no pay. The other thing is that they also have to put a physical barrier of 25 feet between organic and non-organic pastures. So there has to be a physical barrier, like with trees and low crops, and then careful management of intercropping and the soil health too. So they can't use any of the pesticides or defenses against weeds and pests and other disease. So they'll have a lower yield, like less product to actually bring to sale. And then the generation of an audit trail is also mandatory. So they have to audit every single process that they do is audited by a third party. Sewage sludge, I talked about that, and septic waste are completely prohibited. So they're having to spend more money on better fertilizer, natural fertilizer. They're using things like worms and the things that we find in nature to actually be able to increase the soil health. And then they can't do any excessive exploitation or depletion of water resources at all. And that means that anything that's within the area, like if they have a weather pattern that comes in and destroys their crop, they can't burn off, they can't do any of the things that other farmers are allowed to do. And if you take a look in the left picture here, you see that you have real people picking the harvest. And that's what happens on organic or sustainable farms or a regenerative farm. That is, all three of those terms are used for organic, regenerative, or sustainable. So that means that you're employing people. You're employing people to do it versus big, huge machines that come along and overtill the ground and really deplete the soil. You're having people come and hand pick it. So that's what you're paying for. You're paying for the soil health. You're paying for the better quality fertilizers that are natural. You're paying for people to come and do it. And you're also helping that local farmer create a living for him and their family. So where to start? When you're talking about organics, it can be overwhelming. And when you're talking about price point, let's talk about the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. So the Dirty Dozen here, that's where you want to start. This is where you would want to begin, along with some of your animal resources, because again, that animal protein is going to hang on to the antibiotics, into the pesticides, into the hormones a lot longer. But when you're talking about produce, start with the Dirty Dozen. It's easier in the summertime to find these things at local markets and farmers markets, and maybe even to grow it if you have space in your backyard. Maybe you have a community garden plot. We have one here in Milton. It's only $25 and you can be a part of a co-op. And for 25 bucks, you get a 10 by 10 piece of land where you can go ahead and plant whatever crops that you want. So if you're planting crops, plant things that are typically on the dirty list. Cucumbers are really easy to grow, hot peppers, cherry tomatoes. Those things are really, really simple. Sweet peppers, easy to grow. Summer squash and kale, also very easy to grow. And you can even grow them in backyard pots. And so that's a great opportunity as the weather gets warmer to be able to plan that out. But in the meantime, that's where I would start. And you can go to local grocery stores. Some farms are still producing things locally. And then of course you're eating in season. So strawberries are heavily sprayed. If you're getting strawberries right now, I know my kids all love them too, but they're not in season right now. And so you're getting things that have been picked when they're underripe and flown to you from wherever they've been flown from. And they probably don't even taste that great, right? Like this is what we're finding, is that some of the stuff, it doesn't even taste good at this point. Some other places that you can save money and eat well, you can plan out your meals. So a couple of resources, and I'll type them in the chat at the end here. Savethefood.ca, and then savethefood.com, and then lovefoodhatewaste.ca for some tips. And what they do is they show you how to use some of your leftovers in your house to really adequately use the produce that you're using, and that you're purchasing. Sometimes you want to buy in bulk. You can go to Costco. For any of you who have Costco or Sam's Club, they have amazing, amazing organic stuff there. And maybe you chip in and you grab a couple of things and you split it up with a friend. I have a family of 6, so Costco is a lifesaver for a lot of things. You can make your own nuts, seeds, and nut butters. Those are super simple, and I'll be posting some recipes for that. I can make my own almond milk very easily, and I know that it's not filled with any of the chemicals and preservatives that are in the more processed nut milks. Buy local, buy in season, and you can also preserve harvest. I'm going to be taking a class pretty soon on how to ferment and how to dry things and how to freeze. Buy packages of meat, quality meat, and break it up into packages and freeze it so that you can use it later. And then if you're making soups and things, you can eat cheaper cuts of meat and use all edible parts of the fruits and veggies. So for me, you can also get with the things like strawberries that your kids might love, that you love, you can go and get them in the freezer section that is flash frozen. So they have been preserved organically and then flash frozen so that you can enjoy them at a different time, like out of season. And so you are having to go to a grocery store for that when it's not local and not in season, but it is an opportunity for you to do that. And the reason why, this is also for you. This is a coupon for you for people who, whether the US or Canada, I'm actually partnering with True Locale. And they are a company that offers meat to people, and there's going to be coupons for everybody that are here, everybody who's attending tonight or listening into the recording, and I'll send that coupon directly to you. But all of True Locale's products, so they supply all kinds of meat and fish, so from chicken and pork and beef, fish, and it's all vacuum sealed, so individually flash frozen, it's antibiotic free, it's hormone free, it's grass fed. So it's a great opportunity for you to be able to get your meat at a place where you know that it's been sustainably sourced and that the farmers are all local. And what I love about True Locale, after having a big meeting with them, is that they actually source locally wherever they're delivering. So for in the US, they will source out local farms in your area to get you your food. And here in Canada, the same. So I love that they're supporting the local farmers, local communities. You're going to get a great quality product delivered directly to your door. And so we've signed up. And what I like about this too is that you don't have to do order a box of meat every single month. Many of us are going more plant-based. We're not eating as much meat. And so you can just press a pause on your orders and just order when you want. So it is pretty awesome. So I'll send those coupons out to you. But the reason why I'm passionate about sharing this, just to end here, is that really it's all about this. Let food be thy medicine, let medicine be thy food. And I think oftentimes we are experiencing different ailments. We wonder why we're not feeling our best. We're wondering why we have low energy, or maybe we have ailments. And oftentimes in the medical community, they will treat the symptoms. What we want to do in the holistic community is really get to the root of the problem. And if we can start at our food sources and really let our food be making sure that it's our medicine and healing our body, giving us the nutrients that we need, I'm confident that people will feel better. You'll start to see a turnaround in your health. And we love the fact that if you can source out high quality of ingredients, that your body will really love that. So I'm seeing some